Hey guys, we are live. It is, I don't know, New Year's Day. It's Wednesday, January 1st, 2020, and we are right on the cusp of CES. And so I was talking to Justin on the phone, and we were actually preparing for CES, and then
Mhm.
I don't know, we got into this conversation around like kind of like last minute, like, hey, our predictions seem kind of just, I don't know, like they seem like everyone else's predictions, and we just started going back and forth. So Justin, I'm gonna bust it over to you real quick. Tell them a little bit of what we were talking about. We'll go back and forth because I just thought it was kind of interesting. It's a theory, but
It's
it
just
has a
yeah,
lot of weight to it, I feel like.
right. It's just a theory. So we're talking about how among one of the releases that Arcade1up has kind of teased this coming out is one of their Wave 1 Generation 1 cabinets is going to be re-released is what they mentioned is
Yep.
kind of teased. And I mentioned that I think maybe it'd be Street Fighter because I think that was one of their big titles from their first generation that we haven't seen an upgrade to. But we kind of have a new theory and maybe it's a different cabinet. And so we started thinking about the cabinets that are no longer for sale. You can't
Yeah.
really find them anymore. So that's Asteroid, Centipede, and a little bit of the Atari 12-in-1. Then we started just kind of brainstorming all the different details that we know about that cabinet. And one of the interesting things is two of those cabinets has a spinner.
Yep.
And our good friend Glenn makes a premium version of the spinner that
He
you can
makes
actually install on those
he
cabinets.
makes the creme de la creme of spinners.
That's right. So there's a little bit of controversy about that. You want to talk about that, Ralph?
Yeah, so I don't want to get into too deep into a controversy, but we all know the early prototypes of the Act Games Legends Ultimate. It had Glenn's spinner on it, right? I mean, Glenn couldn't talk about it because he was under NDA, and he never actually said it was his spinner, but we all know it was his spinner. So, but we all know also that they didn't end up moving forward with that spinner. I don't know why. We don't know the reason why. We may never know the reason why. But it was odd because it's an awesome spinner. And the spinner that's actually on the Legends Ultimate it's actually pretty good too. But
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
just interesting. And then there was a little weird course of events that happened maybe a couple months ago when At Games released their product. John D over at Arcade1up kind of got into it with At Games in one of the groups publicly. I don't know. It seemed to be directed at the fact that, hey, why didn't you use his spinner? And Glenn never entered the conversation. He never even said a
Right.
peep about it, but they
Yeah.
just went back and forth. So then that kind of made me think, okay, well, Justin's talking about the 12-in-1. Then we know that Arcade1up has that agreement that's very, very new. In September 26th, they did that press release about strengthening their partnership with Atari. So I was like, well, wait, that kind of puts a little bit more, wood behind the arrow of what Justin is saying.
That's right. And then kind of the final piece is recently we know if you've been following Glenn, he has a YouTube channel and he has a really good episode that I really loved where he went to New York,
It was
he
a
went
really
up
good
downtown to
episode.
New York and went to the Arcade1up office. And so up to this point, we've kind of always thought, well, he's friends with the
Yeah,
CEO.
like they're
They
just
have
doing something nice for him or something. I don't
yeah.
know.
Or maybe it's because he was testing a prototype. That's the
Yeah.
theory. And maybe they got a new Atari cabinet that's actually gonna have Glenn Spinner
Because
on it.
think about it, Justin. Honestly, that cabinet was a really fun cabinet, but it wasn't
Mhm.
fun because of the spinner. Like that was actually
Right.
that cabinet looked really nice. The control panel had that like sleek black control panel. Like
Yeah.
it that cabinet is actually one of their depending on if you're a fan of Atari, that's probably one of the best cabinets they've actually created.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think rehashing that with the relationship, you put Glenn Spinner on it, that's a freaking badass cabinet.
Yeah, I have to say, so I have the 12-in-1, and I when I buy some of the cabinets, I've spent several months on not modifying them. But about 6 months in of having the 12-in-1, I was like, okay, it's time. I'm gonna go ahead and mod it. And what did I do? I put a Glen spinner in it and the trackball in it. All of a sudden, a cabinet that was kind of low. I have about 10 cabinets, and one that was really low in the list all of a sudden became like number
Yeah.
two best cabinet I have because it
Yeah.
has a lot of games on it and they're very different. And when my friends come over, my family and friends come over, I'm like, show them that cabinet,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of fun on the games on it because it's very different. It's very different games on it compared to the rest of the cabinets that I own. So they can't just let that go, right? They can't just say, well, that was only a Gen 1 release. They're
Well,
holding on to something important.
and I'm putting this thing up again, but strengthening the partnership with Atari kind of leads me to believe, well, come on, like what Arcade1up, we talked about this on our last show, is Arcade1up moves really fast. I mean, think of what they
Yes.
did in 12 months is amazing. So if you look at the date on this partnership, it was September 26th. So this is just when they did the press release. This partnership could have been, or the strengthening of this relationship could have been a lot earlier than this press release. So the fact that I think some people were leaning towards, oh well, if it's Atari, they're gonna do pole position driving cab. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but I'm really strongly believing that wouldn't be at CES. Like, I don't think you're going to see a driving cab or a gun cab right now. That's probably something we'll see down the road, but I'm feeling, dude, this theory of yours, I'm like more on board with it now than ever. It's a cool theory, but I just want you guys to understand it's really us just kind of having a conversation, trying to think a little bit more outside of the box on what Arcade1up might do. And the pieces kind of you can put the pieces together to build the story, and it kind of sounds legit. So I guess we'll just see.
There was even a point, and I want to make sure it's very clear that John D mentioned that he acknowledged that the first generation cabinet had some issues, but they did come out with a new upgraded spinner that's made by Arcade1up. But he admitted that Glens is the most premium on the market. So you got to ask yourself, was he just doing that because he's kind of tipping a hat to Glenn, saying, yeah, you make some really good stuff? Or was he saying that because they're partnering with them and getting ready to market that, yeah, we got Glenn stuff on our cabinet? And we got to say, we're speculating here.
Yeah, total speculation.
And if we're wrong, we could be wrong. Either way, if you wanted to get your hands on an awesome experience, you can get those. Glenn sells these on Amazon for $50, and they're a fantastic upgrade.
We'll actually put a link in the description to Glenn's spinner, just because if you do have that cabinet right now and you want to do that upgrade, go for it, right? And who knows, this might be totally wrong, but either way, like Justin's saying, you get access to the spinner, even so. And we love Glenn, and Glenn actually contributes a ton to the community that people don't see. So, we're always trying to help him out any way he can. And it's an awesome product, so it's worth the money if you were looking for a spinner. But, yeah, that was it. I just, so I guess just to wrap things up, Justin and I were having a conversation about prepping for CES. So trying to figure out what do we need for cameras and lighting and all that stuff. So we plan on doing, just for those of you watching the show, we plan on doing a live stream. Oh crap. Kim's calling me. That means I gotta go soon.
Yeah.
But
let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So we do plan on doing a live stream recap of the CES events every day, and we might even bring in guests, people you may know from in the community. So that's going to be really cool. Who knows? You might see some familiar faces there, which will be really fun. And then outside of that, we're going to do some show floor content too, so expect that throughout the day. It'll be live streamed if the internet connectivity is good enough to do that. If not, then we'll go back and publish it so that you get that stuff every night. So that's kind of it. It's all for me. And Justin, any final things before we close it down? I hope you're right.
I'm so excited. It's going to be a really exciting time to see all the different releases. We got a lot of different players that are coming to CES. Now, this video specifically, we're talking about Arcade1up, but there's other players. We don't want to forget them, but stay tuned next week. Well, it's like less than a week away.
I know. It's crazy.
It's going to be great.
It's crazy. All right. Well, Justin, have a good rest of the day. Happy New Year to everybody who joined. And the next time you probably hear from us, it'll be at CES. So, email, send comments, do whatever you can just to give us what you want to see, because we're there and we're going to be there all week. So that's it, guys. Thanks for joining. Happy New Year and have a good rest of the night. Take care.